Mail Online, but it's by Rod Hull and Emu again. He seems to write quite a lot about EVs. Is the Chinese EV bubble about to burst? Oversupply sparks crushing price war in China. Experts say only 1 in 10 brands will survive bloodbath as competition increases. Who benefits from the Chinese? How can they benefit? Why are they pushing them at every opportunity? We already know, I think there's 400 Chinese EV makers gone out of business already, and a lot of them are teetering on the brink. The price war by BYD is supposedly designed to cut the competition or wipe the competition out. To be fair, that's something I thought Elon Musk would have done. So this is 10th of July 2025, and we're the 10th of July today. Just come out. Chinese cars have been stealing a march on the UK market of late. I'd have to disagree with that slightly. What they have been doing is getting publicised by every Tom, Dick and Harry collaborator in the motor trade and the motor trade press. All sorts of headlines about them. Some that are just unbelievable, as I've said. Getting awards that there's no way they can get the award. There's no way mathematics will allow them to get the award. But they still get it, so draw your own conclusions from that. Despite their infancy, a number of East Asian newcomers have well and truly stamped their mark this year. Latest industry sales figures show. Again, BYD have been shopped for selling new cars, counting them as a used sale and deregistering them and then shipping them off to another country. If that's true, then, you know, I mean, there's no hope. There's no hope for the UK motor trade. That our ship sailed, but our ship hasn't sailed to another country. They're just hidden in the UK. They're just, you know, you're getting all this hype about them. New cars selling, used cars up so many percent. It's just rubbish. And the gullible people that take in these big percentage rises when there's only a few and a percentage means nothing. If it's stated in percentages, ask yourself why. In June, BYD, officially now the world's biggest electric vehicle maker, sold more cars in Britain than Mazda, Mini, Citroen and Dacia, a remarkable achievement for a brand that launched in the UK only 2 years ago. Well, it is a remarkable achievement, but then again, it also appears that they've been using the suppliers' money, dollying the suppliers about getting all the stuff, but not paying them for months and months, and then also understating the debt. And when you combine its sales with other recent Chinese debutantes, Amoda launched August 2024 and JQ launched January 2025. The trio of relatively unknown marks last month delivered as many motors as Audi. Given that a decade ago Chinese brands had little to zero presence in the UK, the speed and scale of their recent growth is unprecedented and largely driven by their cheap, well-equipped EV models. Well, again, I would say it's largely driven by massaging figures. And what I can't understand is why our UK motoring press are blowing sunshine up their arse when the cars are proven to be made with dirty fuel, and they also take a lot longer to achieve carbon neutrality than a European legacy brand. So you're importing problems, really, aren't you? Let's face it, if clean air was the primary goal of these people and the EV fanatics, they wouldn't buy a Chinese vehicle, would they? Chinese vehicles wouldn't exist on our shores because, according to the research I did the other day, each Chinese EV, just to get here, creates 1.5 tonnes of CO2. Just to get here, that's just on the ship. That's not counting what, you know, the energy that's been used to produce it and get the cobalt and, you know, just, it just don't bear thinking about. Given that a decade ago, Chinese brands had little to zero presence in the UK, the speed and scale of their recent growth is unprecedented and largely driven by their cheap, well-equipped EV models. As the wave of new battery-powered arrivals from the East continued this week, with the confirmation that Geely Denza and Cherry, is it Cherry, will bring their sizable profiles to the UK in 2025. A saturation of manufacturers is having a crushing impact on China's domestic market. Well, it's also having a crushing impact on the UK market, driving prices down. You know, they're apparently the Chinese EVs are subsidised by their government. I was having a conversation with somebody last night who works for somewhere I can't say, and they are extremely worried about China and motors. There you go. The saturation of manufacturers is having a crushing impact on China's domestic market. I put a graph the other week showing the discounts. Somebody took exception to it, didn't believe me, but it was an idiot. And basically, they all looked like ski slopes, and that was the discounts going down. And it was, naught was there, and it was under no. So, again, draw your own conclusion for that. Oversupply has resulted in overwhelmed competition, sparking a debilitating price war that some experts say could overflow into the UK market. Others believe it will result in a bloodbath of Chinese brands, with around only 1 in 10 existing marques likely to survive. It's a bloodbath here already. In order to sell EVs, we're having to give them away. And people going on, oh yeah, 24%. But what it's cost to get that 24% is killing the motor trade. So, you know, and everybody goes, oh, car dealers, well, you know, they've had it so good for so long. Trust me, I've been in it 50 years. We've not had it so good for any length of time. We've never had it good. It's always a struggle. Each year, you've got to sell more and more cars to make the same profit as you did last year. It's like, you're like on a treadmill. You can't get off. You can't stop for a second. You can't go on holiday. As I say, don't feel too sorry for me, because I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. So could the Chinese EV bubble be about to burst? The noise coming out of China right now suggests the government is on the brink of tightening the reins on its bulging electric car segment, but it has largely been the maker of its own issues. Its recent industrial policy has engineered a remarkable transformation to electric vehicles in what is now the world's largest auto market. But in so doing, Beijing's incentivised backing has spawned far more brands than can possibly survive. Even as the headline sales numbers soar to new heights, and China is projected to produce in excess of 33 million cars in 2025. Now, I was reading something the other day to say they'd already got 3.5 million excess vehicles that haven't been sold yet. And they're making more. What could possibly go wrong? Long simmering concerns about oversupply and a crippling price war is coming to the fore. Price cuts of more than 30% have been introduced by manufacturers for EVs in their home market. Everywhere else are imposing tariffs. Well, in my view, they should impose tariffs. Buy charging stations with the tariffs. Or, even better, buy trees. Plant trees. Let's combat. If we're going to buy Chinese vehicles, then at least we need to make, if we're going to buy Chinese EVs that are dirtier than legacy EVs, then at least we need to make the Chinese pay to get our air clean. It's going to take twice as long for a Chinese EV to pay its dues than a legacy vehicle. And in all honesty, you know, anybody who buys a Chinese vehicle over a legacy vehicle needs their head testing. They really do. You know, it's just stupid. Load of gadgets to go wrong. More gadgets. All those gadgets, they've tried knocking money off, and now they're trying to add free things like, I don't know, autopilot and stuff like that. And things that when they go wrong, you cannot fix. It's too expensive to fix. And the car becomes an economic write-off. So all they're doing is building in obsolescence quicker. They won't last as long as a car that has none of that shit on. All that stuff that they don't use. All that stuff that when it goes wrong will bring a warning light on your dash, and the car will fail its MOT until you get it fixed. You don't use it. Oh, Mr. MOT inspector, I don't use it. I'm sorry, you've got warning light on. Got to be fixed. But it's going to cost me like £5,000. There's nobody can do it. Sorry, got to be fixed. Not too long ago, I think it was what's them bloody? It was a Rexon, and it was in for MOT. It was 500 quid, and I think it had a cracked backlight. The cracked backlight is virtually the length of the car, Rexion. And I'm sure they'd been quoted £800 for a backlight. The car was a write-off at the MOT for a backlight. A write-off. How can that be? Well, how can it be? Just wait till you take the Chinese EV in 3 or 4 years and you've got blooming dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. Industry observers say the sheer volume of makers, which now exceeds 100 different EV manufacturers, and the level of discounting taking place will lead to a bloodbath of brands. In late May, BYD launched a fresh round of price cuts to 25 different models due to excess inventory. This saw it secure its best month sales performance in June, but it has kick-started another price war in China as rivals have discounted pricing in response. Well, what did they expect them to do? Just let them have their own way? You know, as I say, I'm surprised that Elon is just letting them have their own way at the moment. Maybe he's like waiting them out, hoping they go skin. Maybe he's waiting for BYD to make all the other Chinese EV manufacturers go skinned, and then he'll blow them out of the water. Once they're, I mean, by the look of it, they're already on a financially unstable downslope. Is Elon going to just wait, let them get rid of all the other Chinese manufacturers in their own country? Once BYD gets rid of them in their own country, they can't export to other countries, can they? And then Elon, BYD, and put them out of business. I actually hope so. I really do hope so. Fingers pointed at BYD. BYD is a prime example of the problems facing China, not just China's electric car segment, everywhere's car segment. It has taken advantage of its dominant position, triggering price wars over 4 years that has caused losses across the industry. According to Murthy Grandi, an India-based financial risk analyst at Global Data, BYD sales are up 31% in the first half of the year. Some 2.1 million motors branded with Build Your Dreams were bought between January and June, with almost a half and half split between EVs and plug-in hybrids, having culled combustion cars in 2022. But in late May, it came under thinly veiled criticism when it launched a new round of price cuts to 25 different models due to excess inventory. So what can you do? You can either slow your production down to match your sales, which is what most people would do, because that then keeps the prices up, or you can keep churning them out, which means you have to discount them to get rid of them, and then your profits on car sales go. But you've got all these vehicles out there on the park, which sooner or later will go wrong. Something will go wrong with them, and then you start selling your parts. Now, do you get 30% off parts like you get off a new car? No. Your parts are full price. So, you get a cheap EV, it goes wrong, and your parts bill is more than the car's worth. That's how it works. Just short-sighted. Short-sighted buying it on your part, not so short-sighted on BYD's, because I suppose in the end it'll balance out. If you get more cars out there, there's more cars going wrong, and they're going to sell more parts. So I suppose the bean counters have worked it out. However, several competitors followed suit, downgrading their prices to make their vehicles more attractive to customers, further compressing margins for manufacturers. Well, that actually says manufacturers. The chairman of Great Wall Motors said he is growing increasingly concerned, he started it all here, that the industry could come under threat if it continues on this trajectory, with the government expected to step in to force a dramatic reshaping on the nation's EV landscape. course, China cares about everybody else in the world, don't they? On 23rd of May, the day BYD initiated its price cuts, GWM's Wei Jianjun said he was pessimistic about what he called the healthy development of the EV market, drawing comparison to Evergrande, the Chinese real estate giant whose collapse sent the entire industry into a downturn from which it is yet to recover. Evergrande happened in China. The EV market is going to affect the world, and especially the UK, because we're the only ones stupid enough not to put tariffs on Chinese cars. Well, when I say we're the only ones stupid enough, the Labour government are the only ones stupid enough not to put tariffs on Chinese vehicles and just let us get over on and decimate the whole motor industry. The Evergrande in the automobile industry already exists, but it is just yet to explode, he said in a video message posted on social media. 2 days later, a BYD executive rejected any comparison to Evergrande. To be honest, I'm confused and angry, and it's ridiculous, Li Junfei, BYD's general manager, wrote on social media. All these comparisons come from the shocking remarks made by Chairman Wei of Great Wall Motors. But sector commentators say the finger is understandably being pointed at the world's biggest EV producer. When volumes get bigger, it's just much harder to manage, and you become the bullseye, Lei Xing, an independent analyst who follows the industry, told Associated Press. He said the Chinese government is now trying to rein in what is called involution, a term initially applied to the rat race for young people in China and now to companies and industries engaged in meaningless competition that leads nowhere. The government and an industry association too has weighed in on the argument. The China Association of Automobile Manufacturers called for fair competition and healthy developments of the industry, noting that major price cuts by one automaker had triggered a new price war panic. Well, everybody blamed Elon for putting his Teslas down for used EVs crashing, which is a great excuse, but that didn't start it. That was a reaction by Elon because it already started bombing in the previous September, and Elon put them down in January, a fact which most of our motoring correspondents and experts seem to have missed. They were already going down. That price cut might have been the final straw that hurt both competitors and regulators for the ruthlessness that BYD continues to show, Lei said. Experts say Chinese brands now need to identify markets outside their own to sell their surplus of vehicles, and the UK is particularly attractive given its low tariffs and maturing charging infrastructure. Could China's problem overflow into the UK? There's already over a dozen Chinese brands selling cars in Britain today, and more have confirmed their arrival for 2025-2026, while MG is the brand we know best, having relaunched a much-loved British badge in the early 2010s. Its rivals have only broken into the market most recently. Huge manufacturers with various marks under the banners have been drip-feeding new names into the segment, and Britons have been snapping them up at a staggering rate. I don't think they have, to be honest. But, you keep saying that. But with Chinese manufacturers already imposing average EV discounts of 17%, a new record in their domestic market, the ripple effects could impact new and used car values across Europe and the UK. Experts have said, well, I would say that the average discount on a new EV in the UK is more than 17%. So, that's rubbish. Andy Shields, Indicator's Global Business Unit Director, warned Chinese OEMs are facing massive oversupply and intense competition in their domestic market. They need to find markets outside of China to sell their vehicles, and Europe represents their most viable and profitable export destination. Now, just for argument's sake, when I was younger, there was an advert for VW Polo. Well, he was stood there talking, and then a VW Polo's dropped from above his head, lands, and then he said, VW Polo, best-selling car in Japan. Hi, or whatever it is they say.
We Japanese learned a thing or two from studying European car. We're most impressed with a Volkswagen Polo.
But the thing is, soon, hopefully, BYD and the other Chinese vehicle makers are outselling the legacy car brands in China. Now, if their market is the same as ours and cars that depreciate faster actually cost you more to run. You think they don't, but they do, because people stop buying them new. And when they're used, they still keep depreciating. So sooner or later, hopefully, the legacy manufacturers will start again selling vehicles in China, because it will become again a no-brainer that if you put the same amount of money into a legacy brand, it'll be worth more when you come to sell it, therefore costing you less. Now, in my view, that has to happen. And the way prices are dropping in China, it's got to happen soon. So long as the legacy manufacturers hold firm, don't blink, keep the prices, don't start matching the discounts, then with a bit of luck, the legacy sales will come back in China. It'll spread around the world, back to the UK. We'll get rid of all these silly Chinese cars and go back to the legacy makers and have proper cars made properly. There's also been some question about BYD's work ethics, which again I won't go into, because BYD have got a bit of a monk on with influencers, and apparently they're suing people. Whilst there are tariffs in place for BEVs, battery electric vehicles, in the EU, it's still possible for Chinese manufacturers to sell BEVs in Europe more profitably than in their home market. The UK market is particularly exposed as there are currently no additional tariffs on Chinese BEVs, he warned. The UK motoring press, including some of the big names, the biggest names in the motor trade, are pushing these Chinese vehicles. And I've said right from the beginning, what's the motive? I mean, I see no upside at all. I can't see any upside whatsoever, no matter how I look at it. And I try to be impartial. Believe it or not, I try to be impartial. Whenever I got into a fight with somebody, my mum used to say, what did you do to them? And I've grown up like that, looking at the other side. Who benefits from the Chinese? How can they benefit? Why are they pushing them at every opportunity? Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.